Good evening, everyone. Welcome to part 2 of why you are struggling to get started and stay consistent with your health and weight loss goals. Yesterday, we talked about the stages of change and how they relate to your readiness and ability to create a plan and just be able to stick with it. We reviewed these stages of change from James Prochaska's book, which I showed you also yesterday, and it's called Changing for Good. So let me kind of review the stages of change, and we'll kind of go from there. So here they are. We started with pre-contemplation. Pre-contemplation is where you're at a point where you're not even recognizing that there's an issue. You might be a little defensive about it. You might, not really be taking ownership the way that you need to. And then there is contemplation, in which you're aware of the problem and you're actually considering change. And then we go into preparation, where you're researching, formulating a plan, and this is really the nitty-gritty of getting started, because it's at this stage of preparation where you are doing the hard work to really figure out what plan of action you'll take, how you're gonna move forward. And I shared with you yesterday that I took more enjoyment from researching weight loss plans than I did from carrying out any sort of action plan. And when I look back on 10 years ago, when I finally moved into action, I realized the thing that I was missing in the preparation phase was all the planning that goes into it. So once you get to action, your action really needs to be well thought out. So what I didn't have time to cover yesterday was, I did cover action, but I'm going to review it. Also maintenance, also recycling or relapsing. And this is where consistency can be very powerful. So at the action phase, we're getting started, but it's an action phase, you really have to be consistent. And even once you're at maintenance, it takes consistency. Otherwise, you are very likely to relapse. So we don't want to make this like too crazy, science-y. We want to keep it simple, keep it real. So when you think about pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, maintenance, and relapse, where are you at right now? Why don't you just type 1 or 2 words into the comments? Even if you're watching on replay, go ahead and type 1 or 2 words into the comments if any of these stages of change resonate with you. So let's kind of go over action. This is really your beginning, and this is where getting started is really in full form. So here are a few tips for the action phase of your change. Action is never a spur-of-the-moment decision, never. And you will not have success that way. I don't want you like binging the night before and getting pissed off at yourself, and then the next day you're like, okay, I'm ready, I'm gonna start. Okay, well, you may have done some research and you may have a direction, but you're really sort of feeding off of emotion, and you're not allowing your common sense to really kick in. So you want to come at it from a place of calm, of planning, of having that plan in your back pocket that is really well thought out, and a start date has been determined. You also want to envision how it will feel to make sacrifice or have discomfort. And I really, I'm not trying to be a downer, but the reality is any change can be even just ever so slightly uncomfortable. And it's really part of the preparation phase that we sort of think about those things and how we're going to handle it. You really, really want to be prepared. Whether you're giving up smoking, whether you're going on a diet, whether you're, you decided to make a change in the way that you approach a business practice, whatever it is, you want to be as prepared as possible before you go into the action phase. And there is really no magic bullet. So we can't think of action phase as just one thing that's going to solve the entire problem, because it very, very rarely amounts to one simple step. Change is all about small changes. It's all about the small steps that lead to big change. It's all about hard work. So we have to kind of get out of the magic bullet mentality. We also want to, for the action phase, find new methods and healthy substitutes. So again, whether you're quitting smoking, I always think of, when I was young, a really, really popular show was Kojak. And he was this bald detective. He was super cool at the time. And he always had Tootsie Pop in his mouth because he was trying not to smoke. So you really want to sort of plan for that. How are you going to substitute? If you're trying to eat healthier or you're giving up grains, what's going to go on your plate instead of those grains? Are you going to crowd it out with some healthier vegetables and maybe even a little fruit and your protein and your added fat? So these are all things that we really need to think about before we step into action. We also need to be prepared to celebrate, to reward ourselves, not with the thing that we're changing, of course, but to something else that you enjoy, that feels like a reward. And really, all of these action tips are going to help you to stay consistent. So now we move into maintenance. And once again, maintenance is all about consistency. It's all the work from the action stage, and you're allowing it to build. Old habits die hard. And reverting back to old habits, they always are a wolf in sheep's clothing. They seem really innocent, like you're trying to, quit drinking, then all of a sudden you're out with all your friends and you're at this cozy little bar, and what's the big deal if I just have one drink? Well, you know what the big deal is. So you really want to prepare yourself. Or maybe you're out with a bunch of friends and that bread basket comes and you just want to devour the whole thing. So you say to yourself, okay, I'm just going to have one piece. Well, that might work for you, but the truth of the matter is lifestyle change, real change, takes about 4 months. So my suggestion is, whether you're in action or maintenance, you have to give yourself a total of 4 months to make these lifestyle changes permanent. So another thing I would suggest, especially during maintenance, if you don't have to be quite as strict as you were in action phase, because I'm assuming you've reached your goal if you're in maintenance, another thing you could really do is reach out and ask for help. This is a great time to get the accountability and the support that you need to achieve maintenance and to stay consistent. You have to have a plan. You have to believe in yourself. You have to know that you can do it. And of course, the support and accountability. So maintenance and action is all about getting started and staying consistent. You're going to be getting started in action, but you're going to stay consistent throughout. You might be altering your plan for maintenance, and that's great. But you want to stay consistent with whatever the plan actually is. Okay, so let's talk about essentially the last step, which could be for some people a relapse. And here's the thing, change takes time, and prepping a plan to get back on plan for when you know that this could occur is pretty important. You have to know your triggers. You have to learn from whatever mess ups you have. It's not the end of the world. You have to believe that you can do it. You can't look back. You have to actually, what you really need to do in a sense is look back on all those materials that you prepared from your preparation stage. You really want to make sure that you're thinking this through, that you're understanding what happened, that you learned from it, and you might have to adjust that maintenance plan just a little. Because maybe you realize, hey, you know what? I feel a little deprived. Excuse me as I wipe my nose. But the most important thing you can do is to forgive yourself. Move on. Tomorrow is another day. So we've got pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, maintenance, and relapse, or recycle, they like to call it in the book. And then you might even have termination. You might say, get really, really comfortable, and this is what we're all going for with your new lifestyle, and then you really don't have to think so much about it. So termination would really be the last stage of change. So what resonates with you about all of this? Do you have difficulty getting started? Do you have difficulty remaining consistent? Do you find yourself just kind of floating on every diet bandwagon out there and really not accomplishing much of anything? You can't stick to anything. You're buying the latest, collagen protein and avocados and whatever the latest, fad is, but you really haven't put the puzzle pieces together. So if you like this video, please go ahead and click on like, or tell me what resonated with you. You can write 1 or 2 words in the comment section so I know that somebody was there and was listening. Anyway, I really hope you enjoyed this video. I really do hope that it resonated with you and that you will take some of this information to help you get yourself ultra prepared, really understand the stage of change that you're actually in. When I look back on all that wasted energy going into the bookstore, buying the book, reading it, and thinking I was just ready to jump into action, I was unprepared. I was stuck in the preparation phase because I was not thinking through it and coming up with a real action plan. So that to me is the secret to getting started. And then once you're there, you have to have some basic understanding and some reality checks about what it takes to make change. And honestly, it's a lot more simple than even this information I'm presenting to you tonight. So think about it. Let me know what you liked. Let me know what you didn't like. I always want to hear from you. And that's it for tonight. Wishing you a great evening, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.